Hi, good morning to everyone. This is RK Physics. Welcome to my physics class. In first year, there are so many topics in our physics, but in IP point of view, in intermediate public examination point of view, first year is very easy and 60 out of 60 marks that can easily get any students. But in the sense of objective examinations like mains or advanced or NEET, it is a little bit of difficulty on compared with second year, especially mechanics. So in mechanics, the chapters came from units and dimensions to gravitation. Units and dimensions to gravitation. First chapter is units and measurements. Second chapter, physical world, it is out of syllabus. Present here, that chapter may be deleted. Next one, motion in a straight line, motion in a plane, laws of motion, work energy power. Next one, system of particles, gravitation. So up to gravitation, this is taken as mechanics part. So out of all these chapters, laws of motion is one of the topic which is very easy and also very interesting topic. Next one, system of particles and also in rotatory motion, that is somehow difficulty on compared with the remaining chapters. Remaining chapters are very easy, right? So, just before doing large problems, means large difficulty problems, compulsory we should build up our concept levels. Suppose we are having more enough on concept in physics, then we can solve the problems easily, whatever may be the problem. Without any single concept, single concept or without any a particular idea about the concept, we can't do any problem, right? Okay. Right here, this is the laws of motion. In laws of motion, all the students very well Newton's laws. Newton's first law, Newton's second law, Newton's third law and applications. So over. Laws of motion is over. First law, second law and third law. And there are some applications regarding to first law, second law and third. Next one, in the same laws of motion there is a concept, subtopic is friction. It's also very interesting and easy concept. Suppose here, in laws of motion, what is meant by Newton's first law? Very well-known fact or well-known concept. How do you define Newton's first law? Suppose if an object which is kept on a horizontal table, without applying any external force on the given object, the object may be at rest. With respect to me, I say that the duster is at rest on the table. With respect to you also says that the duster is at rest, sir. Okay now. So, with respect to the another person, he also says that the duster is at rest. That means the duster is at rest with respect to surroundings. At the same time, in a particular second it is at rest. After 1 hour, without any external force acting on the system, the body is said to be at rest. That means the time is also considered while defining the Newton's first law, time and surroundings. Suppose here, if your body is at rest, the body continues its state of rest or state of motion unless an external force acts on it. Right? Without any external force acting on the body, it is at rest. Or if the body is moving, or the vehicle is moving on a straight road, vehicle is moving on a straight road, and there are no brakes are failing. That means retarding force is zero. In that situation, the vehicle continues to move along the same straight line direction until it may collides with the other body. So, without any external force acting on a body, the body continues in the state of rest or in state of motion. Okay, now that is the definition for Newton's first law. Next one, what is the significance of Newton's first law? Newton's first law can define the concept of inertia and force. See here, Newton's first law. Newton's first law of motion. Newton's first law of motion can define the concept of inertia and force. Inertia and force. What is meant by inertia? Inertia means the inability of a body to change its state of rest or state of motion by itself. Suppose the duster is kept on the horizontal table. The duster cannot change its state of rest by itself. Okay, now that property of the body or the inability of a body which can change its state of rest by itself is called its inertia. So therefore, inertia is defined as the inability of a body to change its state of rest or state of motion is called inertia. And what are the types of inertia? Inertia is classified into three types. First one is inertia of rest. Second one, inertia of motion. And third one, inertia of direction. Inertia of direction. These are the types of inertia. So what is meant by inertia of rest? Inertia of rest. The inability of a body to change its state of rest by itself is called inertia of rest. Inertia of motion. The inability of a body to change its state of motion by itself is called inertia of motion. Inertia of direction. The inability of a body to change its direction of motion by itself is called inertia of direction. Let me explain the inertia of rest, inertia of motion, inertia of direction with examples also. For example, suppose a person is standing on a bus. A person is standing on a bus. Initially the bus is at rest. The person who is standing inside the bus freely. If the bus starts suddenly, what happens? The person falls backwards. Why? If the bus moves in forward direction shortly, at that instant, the legs which are contacting the bus, they may be in motion, but the upper part of the body which is initially at rest. That means the upper part of our body, it is initially at rest. This will continue to its state of rest by itself. That's why the person falls backwards. Right? Next one. Suppose a blanket is taken and also a blanket is suspended from the thread. Blanket is suspended from the thread like this. Suppose it is a dusty blanket. Let this blanket is beaten by using a stick suddenly. Therefore, the dust particles will be removed from the given blanket. Why? Initially, the dust particles inside the blanket, they are at rest. Only if the blanket is beaten by using a stick, it may be in motion, but the dust particles inside the blanket, they may be at rest. They will try to its state of rest. That's why they will remove from the carpet or remove from the blanket. Right? These are the some examples about the inertia of rest. Next, the second one is inertia of motion. In the same way, suppose a bus is moving on a horizontal road with some large velocity, and a person is standing inside the bus. Let the driver apply a sudden brake. What happens? The person falls in forward direction. Why? The person inside the bus initially, he is also moving along the direction of the bus with same velocity. Suppose if the driver applies a brakes, the bus will comes to rest. The legs which are in contact with the bus, they will comes to rest instantaneously. But the upper part of the body, this is in the state of motion, it will continue to in the state of motion. That's why the upper part will be falls in forward direction. So that is due to inertia of motion. Next, inertia of direction. Let the same vehicle which takes a sudden turn while going to a road, then the person who is sitting inside the bus maybe feels outward push. Because initially the vehicle is moving like this. It takes a sudden turn towards left. But the bus is going initially along the straight line direction. The person inside the bus, he is also maybe along the same direction. If it takes a sudden turn, the person cannot change its state of direction by itself. That's why he feels an outward push. This is called inertia of direction. So these are the three examples about the inertia. So what is meant by inertia of rest? All these three can be written on the paper with a single or very similar manner. The inability of a body to change its state of rest by itself is called inertia of rest. The inability of a body to change its state of motion by itself is called inertia of motion. The inability of a body to change its direction of motion by itself is called inertia of direction. So this is the concept about the inertia. Right? Next one, inertia is the measure of, mass is the measure of inertia. Why? Suppose a body which is having more mass, I can say that its inertia is also very more. So, body mass is heavy means the body will continue to its state of rest by itself even though a large force is applied on it. That means its inertia will be more. That's why mass is the measure of inertia. Mass is the measure of inertia. Mass is the measure of inertia. This is concept about inertia. Next again, what is meant by force? Very simple. Inertia means this is the inability of the body to change the state of the body by itself is called inertia, but the external physical quantity which can change the state of the body is known as the force. Right? Body తనంతటగా తన పొజిషన్ ని చేంజ్ చేసుకోలేని ప్రాపర్టీని ఏమో ఇనర్షియా అంటాము. చేంజ్ చేయడానికి ట్రై చేసే ఎక్స్టర్నల్ క్వాంటిటీ ఫోర్స్ అంటారు. దట్ ఈస్ ద సింపుల్ వే. రైట్? సో an external physical quantity which can change the state of a body is called force. Right? According to Newton's second law, force is represented by F equal to ma. So later I will write the same part. F equal to ma. What are the units of force? Units of force. Cg's unit of force is equal. Cg's unit mass is represented in grams, acceleration is represented in centimeter per second square. So Cg's unit of force is equal to gram centimeter per second square. This is also called as dyne. and SI unit of the force is equal to mass SI unit kilogram, acceleration SI unit is equal to meter per second square, kilogram meter per second square is also called Newton. So Newton is the SI unit of force. And what is the relation between Newton and dyne? 1 Newton is also equal to 10 to the power 5 dynes. 1 Newton is equal to 10 to the power 5 dynes. Again, this formula or this relation should be derived in second law of motion. Only remember this formula. Right? This is the formula for force. Next, before we explain the Newton's second law, let us know very well what is meant by a momentum. Linear momentum. Linear momentum is nothing but the product of mass and velocity. M into V is known as the linear momentum. So M means mass of the body, it is taken as a scalar. V is velocity, it is taken as a vector. Velocity is a vector quantity. You know what is meant by a vector? Any physical quantity having both magnitude and direction is called as vector. Any physical quantity having only certain magnitude but no specific direction is called scalar. Again, linear momentum of a body. Linear momentum of a moving body is represented by P bar is equal to M into V bar, where M equal to mass, V equal to velocity. Velocity is a vector quantity, thus momentum is also a vector quantity. Direction of momentum is along the direction of velocity of the body. So momentum can be defined as the product of mass and velocity is called momentum. Magnitude of the momentum is represented by P is equal to modulus of P bar is equal to M into V, where P is the magnitude of velocity, V bar is the vector. Now again, series unit of the momentum is equal to series unit. Mass is represented in grams, velocity is represented in centimeter per second. SI unit of momentum is equal to kilogram meter per second. Kilogram meter per second. Also, P is a vector. P is a vector. It is always along the direction of velocity of the given body. So this is the concept about the linear momentum. Next again, there are some applications corresponding to linear momentum. Before we learn the applications for the linear momentum, you know some similar problems and some concept about the vectors. What is it? Suppose note here, first point. Let A bar is a vector quantity. A bar is equal to AXI bar plus AYJ bar plus AZK bar. This vector is lying in a space. Suppose the vector lying in a plane means it is having only two coordinates, I and J. Here I bar, J bar, K bar, sometimes use I cap, J cap, K cap, whatever. I cap is the unit vector along x axis, J cap is the unit vector along y axis, and K cap is the unit vector along z direction. Unit vector means magnitude remaining 1. Mod I cap is equal to mod J cap is equal to mod K cap is equal to 1. So this is the vector A bar. How do you determine the magnitude of the vector? Magnitude means it is represented by modulus of A bar, that is equal to A, and this is equal to root of AX square plus AY square plus AZ square. This is the magnitude of the unit vector. You know? Next second one, let R bar is any vector. This is equal to the sum of P bar and Q bar. R bar is equal to P bar plus Q bar. R bar is a vector which is equal to the resultant of two vectors P bar and Q bar. Then suppose this is P bar, this is Q bar. Let the angle between these two vectors is equal to Q. Resultant of P bar and Q bar can be represented by the diagonal passing through the same point. Suppose this is a parallelogram. This is a parallelogram. According to parallelogram law, R bar is the magnitude of P bar and Q bar or the resultant of P bar and Q bar. Magnitude of resultant of two vectors R is equal to modulus of R bar is equal to root of P square plus Q square plus 2PQ cos theta. You know, this formula is in motion a plane, sorry, in vectors. Already you know vectors, right? R equal to root of P square plus Q square plus 2PQ cos theta. This is the formula of magnitude of resultant of this vector. Otherwise, let the resultant makes an angle alpha with P bar అనుకుంటే then tan alpha is equal to, you know, tan alpha is equal to Q sin theta by P plus Q cos theta. Tan alpha is equal to Q sin theta by P plus Q cos theta. Okay. Suppose otherwise, if R bar is equal to P bar minus Q bar, third one, if R bar is equal to P bar minus Q bar, then magnitude of the resultant modulus of R bar is equal to root of P square plus Q square minus 2PQ cos theta. Minus 2PQ cos theta. Suppose here, what is the condition to derive this formula? Let here this is a P bar and this is Q bar. Angle between P bar and Q bar is theta, you know, this is theta. But as per the given data, R bar is equal to P bar minus Q bar means R bar is equal to P bar plus minus Q bar, you know. Minus Q bar means this vector will be extended in opposite direction. Magnitude of this line is equal to magnitude of Q bar and this arrow mark indicates direction opposite to Q bar. That's why it indicates minus Q bar. So what is the angle between P bar and minus Q bar? This is theta and this total angle is 180 and this should be equal to 180 minus theta. 180 minus theta. Resultant of P bar minus Q bar, resultant of P bar minus Q bar, that will be represented like this. This is equal to R. So in this formula instead of theta, we can replace 180 minus theta. Cos 180 minus theta is equal to minus cos theta. So therefore R equal to root of P square plus Q square minus 2PQ cos theta. This is the magnitude of resultant of two vectors. Right? Right? Now we are having change in momentum. Change in linear momentum. Change in linear momentum, it is represented by delta P bar. Therefore, change in momentum delta P bar is always equal to P2 bar minus P1 bar. Change in momentum delta P bar is equal to P2 bar minus P1 bar. Right? So, suppose if P2 greater than P1, P2 greater than P1, change in momentum is along the direction of P2 bar. Otherwise, if P1 greater than P2, change in momentum is along the direction of P1 bar. Because all these are vector quantities, compulsory we are having the direction parameters, right? Now, magnitude of the change in momentum is represented by delta P is equal to delta P bar modulus is equal to root of P1 square plus P2 square minus here, you know, this can be written as P2 bar plus minus of P1 bar, that is minus 2 P1 P2 cos theta. Delta P is root of P1 square plus P2 square minus 2 P1 P2 cos theta. Suppose if theta is equal to 0 degrees, means both P1 and P2 both are in the same direction. What is the magnitude of change in momentum? Delta P. If theta is equal to 0 means cos theta is equal to cos 0 is equal Therefore, delta P is equal to root of P1 square plus P2 square cos theta is equal to 1 minus 2 P1 that is equal to, this is in the form of A square plus B square minus 2AB, that is P1 minus P2 whole square. P1 minus P2 whole square. Therefore, delta P is equal to, P1 minus P2 whole square root of, root की square cancel होती है, this is equal to P1 minus P2 or P2 minus P2. Delta P is equal to magnitude only P2 minus P2. If theta equal to 0. Next again, suppose if theta is equal to 90 degrees, theta equal to 90 degrees, cos theta is equal to, cos 90 is equal to 0. Therefore, magnitude of change in momentum delta P is equal to root of only P1 square plus P2 square minus 2 P1 P2 cos theta cos 90 becomes 0. Delta P is equal to root of P1 square plus P2 square. Suppose here, if theta is equal to 180 degrees, see an example. This is case 1, it is case 2, and this is case 3. In case 1, P1 and P2 both are in the same direction. Therefore, change in momentum is equal to P1 minus P2 or P2 minus P2. In the second case, theta becomes 90 degrees. This is P1 and this is P2. Both are 90 degrees. Change in momentum delta P equal to root of P1 square plus P2 square. Again, if theta equal to 180 degrees, this implies cos theta is equal to cos 180 is equal to minus 2. Now, delta P is equal to root of P1 square plus P2 square cos theta cos 180 minus 1 minus of minus plus 2 P1 P2 cos theta. 2 P1 or delta P is equal to, it is P1 plus P2 whole square root cancel. Delta P is equal to P1 plus P2. These are only the formulas corresponding to magnitude of change in momentum. Magnitude of change in momentum. Are you understand?